Hi guys, this is me Anne from Geeks of Green and I welcome you to yet another video. In today's video, I will share with you tips to take into consideration so that you can water your plants like a boss. One of the greatest reasons that we home gardeners kill our plants is watering, because we cannot master the watering schedule. We either overwater or we underwater. Underwatering does kill plants, but overwatering kills plants much more. This is in my experience, I've experienced, and I've also heard many gardeners talk about this. So getting the watering right is absolutely important for you to have a garden that's thriving and plants that live longer. So without wasting any time, let's get into this video. The first tip is you have to understand humidity. Understanding humidity is extremely important to understanding when to water your plants and how much to water your plants. The humidity varies for many reasons in the places that we live. It also depends on where your city is located. Is it located close to the coast? The humidity will automatically be on a higher side. If it is an inland state, it will be lesser. So you need to really understand the humidity of where you live at. The best way to understand the humidity is invest in a hygrometer. If you're really serious about gardening, if you want to keep plants, then I would say this is a very good investment. A hygrometer looks something like this. You will find it on Amazon. You can go on Amazon and buy it by yourselves, or if you want, I will put some links for you in the description down below as well. A hygrometer shows the exact humidity of that place. Now, right now the humidity is at 47%, which is still not ideal for plants. The ideal humidity for plants is 60% and above. If you're living in a place that has that kind of humidity, excellent. Your plants will naturally thrive. Now, why do we need to take humidity into consideration while we are watering our plants? Is because if there's lesser humidity, your plants will dry out faster. If there's more humidity, your plants will not dry out as soon. There will be moisture in the air and your plants will need lesser water. So you adjust your level of watering according to the humidity that is currently there. In the rainy season, I water my plants very less. Even though my plants do not get direct rainfall, they do not get wet from the rain, I just water them less because the air is full of moisture. But in the winter, when the humidity is at 15% or less, I absolutely have to water my plants more frequently. Sometimes every alternate day, sometimes every day. Even how much sunlight your balcony receives or how much wind flow is there will affect the humidity of your balcony. If there's a lot of wind flow, the balcony will dry out quicker. If there is a lot of sunlight, it will dry out quicker. So you need to keep all these factors in mind and then prepare your watering schedule and adjust it accordingly. Remember, your schedule will not remain the same throughout the year. It will keep changing based on the different conditions that your plants are surrounded by. The second tip, get your soil right. Now you'll ask me, why do we have to think about the soil when we are talking about watering? But yes, we do have to think about the soil when we talk about watering, especially because how the soil drains is absolutely important to how much you need to water your plants. Now, initially, when I started my gardening, I used to use a lot of clay soil or sandy soil, and I was not as experienced in my usage of soil mixes. But now, when I'm doing container gardening for so many years, I have learned a big lesson is use a very well-draining soil for your plants, and you don't need to worry about root rot. You don't need to worry about your plants sitting in soggy soil or in a lot of water. If the plant drains out well, half of your problems are solved. I would suggest use a good mix that has a lot of nutrients like vermicompost and things like that, including coco peat, including bark, including many different mixes that you can all put together, making it a nice versatile mix. Your plant will thank you for that. If you want to see the video on the soil mix that I like to use for my plants, I will leave the links for you in the description. Now, there are two aspects to keep in mind about a good soil mix so that you can successfully water your plants. The first thing is it has to be well draining. The water should not sit in it too much. It should drain out well. The second thing is it should also be moisture retaining. When it retains moisture evenly, it really helps your plant to grow and thrive well. Use the right technique to water your plants. That's the third tip. I personally use deep watering because I feel that really works with the other practices that I've put into place, because my soil is well draining, and because of the other things that I will be talking about, this practice really works for me. I've explained about deep watering in one of my older videos where I spoke about watering. You can also check those videos out. Now I'll quickly tell you what is deep watering. It is watering your plant evenly and completely, thoroughly, till the extra water drains out from the bottom drainage holes. Now that technique works for me because I ensure that every part of my container is completely moist and watered. So my plant is able to absorb water properly, the roots are properly drenched, and it really works for my plants. I don't have to water as frequently as I would have to do with shallow watering. Shallow watering doesn't work for me because it just wets the top layer of your soil sometimes, and you might not get an idea of how deep you need to water, how deep the roots are, how the root system is of that plant. So it's a little tricky to use shallow watering unless you're a pro or if you have a couple of plants to take care of, that's okay. But deep watering really works for me, and this is a technique that I've embraced and I've seen the results with my plants. Remember, however, to keep in mind that plants are all different. So the kind of plant that you're watering also needs to be in your mind. If it doesn't like deep watering, research, know that, and avoid deep watering for those plants. There are some plants that prefer bottom watering or shallow watering much more than deep watering. So always know your plant before you adapt any technique. I'll share a few examples with you. For example, if there are plants that have shallow roots that don't require much, they don't require deep watering, but a plant that has roots that are growing deep down will require deep watering. But remember, those plants that have shallow roots will not complain about deep watering as well. But there are some succulents that you need to water with bottom watering, so you have to take a call and accordingly change your watering according to the plant you have. Now let's get to the fourth tip. Excess water must drain out. Do not let your plants sit in a soggy pot full of water. That is criminal and you'll be killing the roots. So ensure that the drainage holes at the bottom of your pot are all unclogged, free of any obstruction, and that the water is draining properly. In case you have water not draining in a particular pot, ensure that you poke something sharp and unclog the holes. Sometimes the roots grow and stop the holes, or sometimes there is some rock or some kind of material that's blocking that hole. So ensure that all the holes are open and that the water is draining freely out of your pot. Remember, this is an absolutely critical step to ensure that your plants don't suffer root rot. Now the fifth tip is get rid of your pot plates. If you can, get rid of them. If you can't get rid of them, if you're living in a balcony where you cannot have water dripping down and you need to have them, you need to at least ensure that you empty the pot plates after you're done watering. Having so many plants, it's absolutely impossible for me to sit and empty every pot plate. So one more thing that I have started doing is I have placed a lot of pebbles on my pot plates. Now the reason why I'm talking about pot plates is because pot plates have the capacity to hold a lot of water. The extra water that comes out of your drainage holes sits in that pot plate, again making the bottom of your plant very soggy and wet. I find it very uncomfortable to leave my plants in such kind of water, unless you're living in a place where the water just evaporates very quickly, or there's a lot of wind and it dries up very fast. It's okay, you can manage to leave it like that, because that will increase the humidity of your plant. That will keep your plant hydrated for a longer time. But in case that is not happening and the water sits there for quite a long time, it can be a hindrance for the growth of your plant, for a good growth of your plant. It can also cause root rot. So what works for me best is, like I said, keeping pebbles in a plate and then keeping your pot on top of it. What happens with the pebbles on your plate is you raise the pot up and the pot is not touching the water directly. The water goes and rests in between the pebbles, and what happens is it also creates a nice humid atmosphere for your plant, because that is constantly evaporating. Another thing is you don't have mosquitoes breeding in that, because they don't have place to breed in that, because the rocks are taking up most of the space. So this I find as a very effective method, though it may not help in a very dry place to improve the humidity, but it will definitely help your plant in some small way at least. So I really adapt this technique in most of my plants. It is a constant thing because I have a lot of plants. I can't again put pebbles for all the plants, but I'm slowly trying to keep it up. And some plants I just have removed the pot plates, especially the ones that are on my balcony floor, because those plants are simply the water drains out on the floor and I just wash the floor out. So that is the technique that I use that is really effective. Keeping pot plates without even bothering about if water is collecting or not, what is happening, can be a disaster for your plants, especially when you're watering. So be careful about that. In case you're in a place where there are a lot of mosquitoes breeding and you're scared to do this, just put a few drops of neem oil into that pot plate, and believe me, mosquitoes don't breed in that. I have tried it out. I've had mosquitoes breeding in either or pots, but the one that I have put neem oil in, they don't breed in. They do not like water with neem oil, so you can try that out. The next and the sixth tip is find the right time in the day to water your plants, and that time is the morning. Morning is the best time to water your plants. I wouldn't even say afternoons are good because that time the sun is harsher and it's not ideal to water your plants then, but it's still better than watering your plants late in the evening. So I would still say go back to the morning. If you can get up early in the morning and water your plants consistently, every time you water them in the morning, you will see a difference in your garden. You will see them growing well. You'll see them thriving. Now, the reason why we water our plants in the morning is you have the entire day for the water that is on the leaves, for the excess water that is in and around your plants to dry up. Now, that is essential, especially if you have plants that have the tendency to develop fungal infections with water on their leaves. Having a lot of water on the leaves can be a bacteria haven. So, just avoid that by watering in the morning. You can water over the leaves, you can hose down your plants. When you do it in the morning, you have enough time for it to dry up. Also, including watering your plants in the morning in your schedule is kind of a therapeutic experience, because in the morning when you're watering your plants, it's a different feeling. The air is different, the feeling is different. It's the start of your day. It's a feeling of freshness. So you start that. It will also benefit you personally, not only your plants. The last and the seventh point is group your plants correctly. Put your calatheas together, put your aglaonemas together, put your hoyas together, put your philodendrons together. The big pots are still okay, but the smaller ones, definitely group them. Try to keep your ferns together, especially when you're watering with a hose. That is how you can control how much water you need to put and how you need to water that plant. When I'm watering my aglaonemas, I prefer watering the soil of the aglaonema. I don't like to get the leaves wet. So I group my aglaonemas together. If I'm watering my calatheas, I have to be careful about what kind of water I'm using for them. So I group them separately. If I'm watering my philodendrons and my monsteras and my rhaphidophras, those kind of plants, my aroids mostly, who have aerial roots, I hose them down properly. I get all their aerial roots and their moss sticks wet. So I have grouped them separately. My ferns do need a lot of water. So I usually keep my ferns at the base of my bigger aroids and they soak all the water that falls into them. They don't mind being thoroughly watered. So group your plants accordingly. Be smart and make a plan that will help you in your watering schedule. I hope these 7 tips help you to water your plants like a boss and master your watering skills and not have any plants dying because of overwatering or underwatering. Implement these things and let me know in the comments down below if it really helps you. If this video has helped you in any way, take a moment to please hit the like button. It really helps boost our channel. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, I would please ask you to subscribe as well, and also follow us on Instagram for closer updates, closer interactions. If you want to watch this video in Hindi, I do have a Hindi channel. Go and subscribe to that channel as well and watch the video in Hindi. I really hope to see you soon in another video. Till then, stay green.